Hi everyone, I'm Erin, Education Director of Gallatin Valley Farm to School. This is normally the time when we'd be out in the school gardens with all of our students starting to plant crops that they'll be able to harvest over the spring and the summer. So because we can't do that right now, I'm going to today lead you through how to plant peas, and hopefully you could do this at your own house. So today I'm going to be planting snap peas. And if you do want to be eating the peas straight off of the plant and eat the whole pod, I would recommend doing either snow peas or snap peas, both of which you can find at garden stores or grocery stores. So as you can see, there's still some snow on the ground, so it may seem a bit early to start planting. However, peas are a cool season crop. So they're actually one of the crops that you can put in the garden as soon as your soil is workable in the spring, even before the cold temperatures are through. And so you can see that I can dig into the soil and it's no longer frozen. So that tells me that it's a good time to plant peas. And you want to plant peas actually as early in the spring as you can, because you want them to grow and mature before hot weather comes, so temperatures of over 85 degrees, then they'll stop growing as well. So the first thing that you want to do is just loosen up the soil a bit. You can distribute some of those leaves into the soil just to add some good carbon matter. You don't want too much carbon though, because that can bind up the nitrogen and make it unavailable for plants. So I'm gonna just loosen the soil a bit, and I am gonna plant a full row of peas, but for this video I'm just gonna show you a small portion of the row. So after I've loosened it up a little bit, I'm going to create a furrow, and the way I plant peas is in 2 rows, and they climb up a trellis on either side. So I'm going to start by planting 1 row here, and then about 8 inches away I'm going to plant another row, and they'll climb up the same trellis. Okay. So the general rule of planting seeds is that you want to plant the seeds about twice the height of the seed in depth. So you can see the size of this pea, maybe. You want that to be planted so about twice that, so maybe about that deep, which is up to about my first knuckle or maybe a little bit less. So I've already kind of created this furrow here, so I actually don't need to poke individual holes. So I'm going to start just by placing the pea seeds in here. And you want them to be about 2 inches apart so that they have enough room to germinate and have enough resources to grow. So the great thing about peas is they're what's called a legume, which means they actually do an amazing process called nitrogen fixation, where they can actually take nitrogen out of the air, and with the help of the bacteria on the root nodules, those bacteria actually convert the nitrogen in the air, which plants can't use, but the air is full of nitrogen. They can't use the form in the air, but the bacteria on the roots transform that nitrogen into a form that's usable by plants, and so they help create rich soil full of nitrogen. So they are a very helpful plant to put in the garden. Lentils and beans are also in the legume family, and they're often crops that you can rotate through after you plant a crop that's a really high resource user like corn or tomatoes. So I'm going to plant my first row here, and I would continue all the way down my garden because I love peas. But then I'm going to also go over to this second row that I've started about 8 inches away, and I'm going to plant these about 2 inches apart. So after I've put my peas in the ground, then I'm going to mark where I've planted them so I don't forget. And I just use the back of plant markers I've gotten in the past and put the date I've planted them and the name of the crop. So I'm going to label where each of the rows are so that I don't forget. And then I'm going to go through and just gently cover up the seeds with soil. And again, I want them to be about twice the depth, or twice the height and depth. So I'm going to cover them up, pat them down. Do the same with these ones. Make sure they're going to be about 1/2 inch to 1 inch under the soil. Take out any rocks you find and pat them down. So I have my 2 rows of peas. The next thing I would do, as you can see, the soil is nicely moist, so I don't really need to water at this point, but if your soil is a little bit drier, you will want to give them some water. And you'll want to make sure that the bed stays moist as these seeds are germinating. So I'd check it every day just to make sure that they're staying nice and moist so that those seeds can sprout. The nice thing about planting peas in the spring is that we get a lot of rain and snow, and so that can actually provide moisture, and you don't actually have to water them a whole lot. After you've watered, the next thing you want is to have some sort of trellis for them to climb up. So you can make a trellis out of just about anything, any sort of chicken wire or any sort of wire you have. This was an old fence and 2 stakes that we made this out of. So I'm gonna ease it in here, put it in the center of where I planted, and then press it into the ground. And so now, as the peas grow, you can see some peas from last year on here and all these little dried tendrils. They have these tendrils that actually will cling to the trellis and allow them to climb up it. And the warmer your soil is, the faster they will germinate. So I'll actually put, you see I have these hoops on the garden, I'll actually put some plastic over the hoops for the first month or so as they're starting to grow, just to keep the soil nice and warm. Hope you enjoy your peas and have good success growing them. You don't need a raised bed to grow them. You could even dig a patch near your house and just plant some just to try it out. So happy gardening, and we'll see you next time.